under the umbrella, like there's 25 different behaviors, right? Guys aren't going to struggle with every single behavior on there. And it can jump the shark. It can be like whack-a-mole. I mean, it's like, addiction, a good definition is I can never have enough of what I don't truly need.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so then I can go, well, that's not an issue, or this, how much self-discovery do you want to do?
Right. Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Well said.
Do you want to actually limit yourself here? Or, I think the idea is that it will make you just better overall in everything. It'll make you better business.
That's why I don't call it recovery. I like to call it self-mastery, because recovery, there's this implied finish line, this cleansing where you've detoxed and you're, I like to call it self-mastery because it's like, how much do you know about what you were doing? Chris Burns, thanks for joining me today, homie.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
I am too. We haven't talked about this topic in a while, but I hear it all the time, right? It's this whole philosophy of, hey, it's just porn. It's not cheating. Man, I can't, I don't get what she's going on and on about. Sometimes, it doesn't happen often in my groups, but I've sure heard it when guys are comparing their addictions, like, oh, wow, I wish I just stopped at porn. My wife would forgive me. And I'm just going to give you guys advice right now. Please don't say that to another guy. And certainly don't say it around his wife, because I'll tell you right now, Chris, in my experience, probably yours, I don't see a big difference between the guys who have crossed the flesh line, which is what we call it in our groups at least, versus the guys who haven't crossed the flesh line and were able to, kind of just engage in virtual behavior. I don't see a difference in the pathology that causes the behavior. And I also don't see a difference in the betrayed partner's reaction. In fact, my first divorce that I saw in my group was a guy who viewed, get this, pornography 6 times and masturbated 1 of those times. And that was actually the woman that asked for the divorce. So my point is, I think this is a wonderful conversation, because I think I think we should not have a hierarchy of good, bad, better, worse. We should just have behaviors and call them what they are. Before we dive in, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because I think you can conceptualize it as digital infidelity, right? So whether I'm crossing the flesh line or not, I think it's also tough in our culture, right? Because there's there's a restaurant called Hooters. There's a restaurant called Twin Peaks, right? There's no restaurant called Twig and Berries, right? Like it's like we're inundated with this idea, right, of like what it looks like. I mean, I have a daughter, right? I've got 3 boys and a daughter. They fall down. I'm like, get up. She falls down. I'm like, oh my God, baby, are you all right? It's just different, right? She's inundated with, this is what perfection looks like, and comparison and perfectionism. And so it's I think that's really hard for women and for spouses. I'm being chosen over, right? You're picking this over me. But at the end of the day, it's an intimacy disorder. So, whether it's I'm crossing a flesh line or it's I'm viewing it online, to go, well, it's just this. I mean, that's what makes sex addiction different, right? Like no one goes to an AA meeting and goes, well, I just drank light beer.
Yeah, right.
And the other guy's like, well, I drank wild turkey, and so you're in the wrong meeting.
Right,
So
exactly.
It is strange, because guys will go to meetings and go, I went to a meeting, I must be in the wrong meeting.
Right. It's and to your point, what I hear you saying is what I say. Just because something's normal doesn't mean it should be. Sure. Right. And we can all agree porn, and no offense to any betrayed partners listening to this, but we can all agree as a guy, I mean, porn has become normalized. I mean, when you go into religious groups, a lot of men's groups in churches, they'll do an anonymous, pass around a box and they say, yes or no. Yes, if you've viewed pornography in the last month. No, if you haven't. And it's shocking. It's like a 98%. I mean, it's a really, really, really big issue, right? 1 in 4 Google searches are for something pornographic and explicit material, et cetera, et cetera. The stats are shocking. The average IP address that visits Pornhub is visits twice per day for 2 sessions lasting longer than 20 minutes. So, the stats, when you look at them, it really shows you this is being done. I've actually even heard, I don't know if you've heard this, Chris, that some of the pornography companies will on the view counter, every view counts as more views. And the whole reason that they do this is to give the guy the impression that, oh, 250,000 people have viewed this video and it was just posted 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Again, to reduce the shame. So my point is, it was a lot of sociocultural and I would say systemic kind of pressures that make this normal. But again, just because something's normal, should we do it, right? And we don't see a lot of it. I mean, can you think of another example, Chris, of something that we do? I mean, besides eating sugar and candy, I mean, what is something that we do besides sugar and candy and porn, that we just like let happen and don't really?
Yeah. Well, I think sugar's close. I think it's like fast food, right? So, I mean, if you're at a barbecue and someone made some really great burgers, right? And then you brought out a plate of McDonald's burgers unwrapped on a plate, you'd be like, what is this? Right. So fast food, sure. If I'm on a road trip and I go, man, I want the sugar and the fat and the salt, right? But if I'm eating it every day, the guy proved it in the Super Size Me movie, like that's not good for you, right?
Correct.
So it's fast food. It's not real, right? It's faux connection. So it's training your brain to see people as objects and not people as people.
Correct.
So we can minimize it all day long and go, well, we shouldn't be doing this, or I can do this and it's no big deal because I haven't done this. The challenge I have with a lot of guys I work with is I go, okay, well, let's do an experiment. How about just try to not? Well, I can stop whenever I want. Well, sure. Like, stopping anything in addiction, I go, look, stopping drinking is a piece of cake. Stopping looking porn is easy. Staying stopped is a lot harder. Right. So can you actually run the experiment on yourself and stop it? And then if you can't, then why are you going there? Right. Like, well, it's easier, right? No one's watching pornography where it's like, hey, did you unload the dishwasher and did you do the laundry and did you take the kids to school? Mm-hmm. It's a fantasy and it's a checking out and it's a numbing. Right. So I'm going there because it's just easier. Mm-hmm. It's an easier thing. It's transactional. I can just go and that's it. Well,
let's start there, because I think the biggest hang up is for a lot of guys when they go to, when they first get discovered, I think their first reaction is, oh, every guy does this, right? It's the first thing out of every guy's mouth, right? She hears you've been looking at this twice a week or 3 times a week, right? She's shocked. And then, the guy defends it with every guy does, right? So regardless, I don't even like to get into that debate. I'll tell you right now, just from personal experience, I called a bunch of my buddies after discovery and asked, hey, do you guys still watch porn and how often? And Chris, I was shocked. A lot of my buddies said like, I stopped like 8 or 9 years ago after we had our second, right? And so it was actually surprising to me how many men actually had stopped. And I just want to also say, these are not my, I don't have a particular religious affiliation. And a lot of the guys I was calling, I called specifically because I knew they didn't have a religious affiliation, because I wanted to get a genuine response of, if you had no, external reason to stop, are you still watching it? And so again, we don't need to keep getting into that. I just want the guys listening to know, I know in our heads, we like the story that everyone's doing it. And yes, maybe in middle school they were. But I don't know. I think you would be shocked. There are a lot more men than you think who actually don't watch it on the regular. And if they do, it's like insanely sparing and far from something that would look addictive or compulsive. So just kind of I think a lot of guys do wonder, is this normal? Is this not normal? And I don't know. Have you seen any stats on if they've actually measured that? Or
I'd say it like this. I think we have an idea in our mind. When I worked at UCF, I worked in the alcohol and other drugs, right? Our conceptualization of college is that everybody drinks. Most college students don't. Most college students just don't drink, right? Like, not that they even drink moderately. They just don't drink. Then we have, things like Animal House and these other movies, and Old School and stuff that has gone, no, everyone gets hammered. I go, okay, so your study of your close friends is an N of 8. If we're doing a research study, your pool is not huge. So then, of course, everyone around you feels like everyone's drinking. It's the same thing. Right. Everybody's looking at pornography. And I go, well, yes and no. And there's a lot of people who just don't partake. At the same time, it's never been more accessible. And I think what's coming down the pike, and where I think there's more concern now, is things with AI and, with virtual reality. I mean, I've got guys on my caseload. I mean, this is what's tough, right? You get guys who are younger. They've known nothing but lightning fast internet, right? They're virgins. And then you're going, by the way, you're a sex addict? Feels pretty unfair, right? Hey, you're a sex addict. You've never had sex, but you're a sex addict. But what it's doing is it's making it impossible for those young men to then go, well, how do I actually have a conversation with an actual person? What is an actual relationship going to look like? And they're doing damage they don't even know about. But it is just so much more accessible now than it was. I mean, it's not like it's been around forever, right? I mean, you can look back at like ancient Greece and go, oh, there's, these things that we call, pornography, but I think it's a little bit more like Boogie Nights, right? You go, well, this is when the porn industry kind of started, and you had to be pretty intentional back then to like go and buy a videotape and, make sure you rewound it before you returned it to the store. It's different now. Everyone's got a phone.
Right.
Everyone's got lightning fast internet. It's everywhere in that regard. And so I think it is accessible, but it is a rationalization as well for men to go, everyone's looking at this at all times.
Right.
Well, what's your sample?
So let's dive into I want to start with this because I think this is why most guys are going to listen to this episode, which is what's wrong with it? What's wrong with pornography? Why, outside of, because again, I think a lot of men, when I see them, I think the reason they're not, they're relapsing, slipping, or they can't stop watching it. And their kind of rebuttal, I guess, is, it's not a big deal. Well, which would make sense as to why they're not actually stopping. Because it is, you've probably seen this, Chris. Mm-hmm. Guys will stop, all the other behaviors, but then the porn won't stop, right? And I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect sometimes how hard are they trying? If the other ones seem like cheating and this one doesn't seem like cheating, you do have to ask yourself, am I putting forward the same effort to stop as I did with the other stuff that I do agree is cheating, right? So, and I don't know how many men this is, but here's what I would say just on that. If it has been an issue for you, I would ask you to ask yourself, how am I trying to stop as hard as the other things? Does watching pornography feel as dangerous and as bad as the other things? Because if it doesn't, that's probably your answer right there. So that's where I'd love to start right now is, let's state the case for why not? What's wrong with pornography? I'll start first because mine are quick.
Sure.
Listen, guys, I look at it in a couple different ways. One, I look at things in terms of how sustainable are they for the species. I'm a big legacy guy. I'm not an idiot. I understand that my life is going to be 85 years long. Humans have been here for 500 million years that the species has walked the earth. My life is I'm one guy in a really long stream here. But I will say every single thing that humans do and make normal affects the generation after us. So I think a lot about the impact of my life on my daughter's world, on my daughter's daughter's world. I'm not ignorant enough to know that the policies we pass and the things we make normal aren't going to affect people. So again, I know some people don't think about legacy. I think about it a lot. I think, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility to at least not make this place worse. I'm not this do-gooder where I'm making it better per se, but I certainly don't want to, in my day-to-day, screw this place up for the generation after. Because I'm sure all of you right now listening to this have seen the side effects of the generation before us, leaving us with some sort of massive burden. Pornography, I think, would be one of those things. Its invention happened during the time before us, and I wish that they would have done a better job of recognizing it and keeping it out of the hands of kids, because now look at where we are. It's a complete disaster, right? So sustainability is the thing I look at, and guys, it just doesn't look sustainable. I don't believe that we can consume copious amounts of pornography. Every male can watch pornography and masturbate repetitively, at reminding the brain that the female body is this thing to lust after it, because that's what you're doing, right? I mean, everybody listening to this, we're not stupid. So as you're intentionally living your life, we know that the thing that we give our attention, right, we feed those things become more important, right? Money is a great example. Everyone's thinking about money, worrying about money, and now it's insanely important to everybody because we've given it so much of our attention, right? I can't imagine that pornography and masturbation are no different. I can't imagine that giving your undivided attention, because we know this because of the dopamine released, giving your intense undivided attention to this over and over and over again. And these images are not your wife. For some people, they're not, they're not the age of your wife. They're not doing things that you and your wife would do. You can't tell me watching that regularly is going to be healthy. Again, we haven't measured, some of that. We have measured some things, but I just can't imagine. Just use your brain. That can't be good. Right. The other thing that I think about is I think about three things. I think, what's this doing to society? What's this doing to women? What's this doing to men? So that's my society take. What's this doing to women? The way I see it is the women participating. The way I see it, money's not consent. So if the only reason these women are doing the things that they're doing is because they're getting money, I don't consider that consent. I consider it slavery. I do. It's not, she's not choosing to do it. She's doing it because of compensation. Now, again, some guys always have some nonsense to say about that. Well, it's their choice. They chose the job. I don't know. That's a little offensive when I hear that. I know a lot of guys who have jobs that are really, really hard that they hate in the executive, and it's not necessarily a choice. It's, I want to make this kind of money. I want to climb the ladder in the C-suites within corporations, and now I'm doing this job I hate so that I can maybe get a job I love. Is that consent, right?
Golden handcuffs.
Well, yeah, for real. And then there's another argument there, and you brought it up already, Chris. It's guys will say, well, Roland, what about AI? These women aren't real. I say, oh my gosh, which transitions me into my third point about men. I say, listen, if no one's getting hurt by it, then there is only one person being hurt by it, and it's you. Nice. You can't tell me that your son, you can't tell me that you want your son watching fake women who he knows are fake. Right. And enjoying these fantasies with humans who've never existed. That one's the one that creeps me out the most. And we don't have any data to show, what if for 80 years men are enjoying sexual interactions with fake people, yes, fake things. And some of the stuff is I mean, it's very elaborate. And so if you're indulging in that, and that's your preferred, my fear is when these kids are actually 23 years old, are they going to prefer the fake thing over the real thing? I don't know. We'll see how the future goes. But those are the three things I think about. It's unsustainable when it comes to our society. It's to me, what it's doing to women and the message it says to women. I can't fathom why we've been okay with that going on as long as we have. Even non-pornography, just using the female body to sell things. I think it's naive to think that that's not affecting the male lust and male entitlement over such things. And then guys, I think I don't think we take seriously what this is doing to our brains. Is this making it harder for me to enjoy life from doing, from doing something so stimulating regularly, right? Is this making me harder to be happy with regular life? Is this affecting how I view women? Is this affecting how I often wonder, if, these guys, their daughters will become teenaged and their friends will start becoming attractive. To me, back in the day, that boundary was really well drawn, 50 years ago. I would say now guys have become so sexed. Do we even have the discipline to keep our attention to ourselves because we're just so used to just giving it everywhere we go? So I don't know. These are the things I think about. It just, Chris, I can't think of one support for pornography. I truly cannot. I mean, I understand that guys are like, oh, well, what if I'm single? And I still can't imagine that that's doing you any favors. So anyway, that's my take. I don't think it's a practice that we should be doing, and certainly not without caution, put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, right? I agree with all of those. I think, as a CSAT, right, we're trained to, we don't over pathologize any kind of sexual behavior, right? If two consenting adults want to watch pornography together or make pornography together, all good. You won't be shocked by this. I've never knocked on anybody's door and gone, hey, I need to see your browsing history, right? Like I'm not like that. People are reaching out to me because their relationship is falling apart, right? So, so when I look at that, I go, I think there's a piece here where it is a bit intellectually dishonest, right? To go, it's not causing harm, right? That it isn't inherently violent, right? We're consuming human bodies, right? So I'm not making a moral argument. I'm just going, is that the thing we should be doing? I have guys all the time and I focus a lot. You talked about legacy. I talk a lot about purpose. Like, what's your purpose? Like, what's the point of you, right? I don't think anyone's point was like, hey, what does he do? It's like, well, he looks at porn all day. Like you were made to just look at porn all day. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. And I also think it's tough because I don't think people go, hey, come on over. What are we doing? Well, we're going to watch porn together. Like I've got to just DVR porn. Like we're going to come over and do it. That doesn't happen either.
Well, so, I always say when you come over to somebody's house, it's not out on the kitchen table, right? So to me, doesn't that tell you a little something about what you're doing? The fact that you're hiding it from your best friends and it's nowhere to be seen in the home.
Yeah, like if I'm at career day at a high school, it's not doctor, lawyer, porn star, right? Like, so why don't we have booths for it? Why don't we have a major for it at a major university, right? Because there's a part of it that I think we all know, yeah, we probably shouldn't be doing this. And the individuals in it, did they choose it? I mean, I really truly believe if we knew the stories, like actually knew the stories of the people, we would never click on the image, right? I've never had a guy where I'm gone, hey, so would you like your sister or your mom or your wife or your daughter to be in porn? I've never had a guy have to think about it. They just instantly go, no. And I'm like, why is that? Why is it just an instant no? You didn't go study. They didn't go, well, maybe they make good money. Yeah, maybe it's a good career opportunity. They go, no. And I go, well, why? Well, because you know them. So then that brings us back to, well, it's an intimacy disorder, right? So I'm living in a way where I am objectifying human bodies, consuming human bodies, and I'm training myself to not see them as people, but to see them as things for me to consume, right? And that's just going to make you not a great human. Over time. I'm not going to see people as people. And that's a real problem, right? I need to see people that they have rights and, humanity and autonomy. And if you want to make more of a kind of historical argument, every single, authoritarian regime that took people out, what they first did was dehumanize people. This is just another form of dehumanization. That's really all it is. And we go, well, it's for my pleasure. It doesn't matter. We're still dehumanizing. We had internment camps in California of the Japanese, right? I mean, and the way we did that was through the use of political cartoons, right? So even like Stalin and Hitler were seen as like white and people, the Japanese were not. They were made to look like animals, right? In political cartoons. And so we'll use that. I go, that's a way of dehumanizing. If I can dehumanize the person, well, now I can do whatever I want to them. I can kill them. I can do whatever else. So I can objectify in that way. And I think that's a real problem for humanity. I don't think that's, forget what, and again, it's a bit of still a moral argument. Like, should I be doing that? And some people go, who cares? And I go, well, I just think it's not going to make you a good person. Like, meaning like you're not going to function well in society. And you're going to have a hard time seeing people.
The example I bring up is, I have a daughter. Would I want her teacher, who's a man, to be masturbating to pornography every single day? Does that make me feel safe that my daughter's in his class?
Yeah.
It doesn't, because again, and so that's what I like what you said there. When we rehumanize the situation, it all of a sudden makes us wonder, right? Would you want your daughter in porn, doing porn? Guys listening to this, here's my big fuel for not participating in this industry. There's a website called OnlyFans, which is essentially a social media platform for any woman over the age of 18 to sell her body to other men. Yeah. So here's what I say is I believe that the objectification of women, pornography, is feeding the appetite that would then create patrons who would go to that website and now want to pay for something more. Like, viewing passive images isn't enough for me anymore. I want images from real people who I'm interacting with. I want to request specific images and I'm going to pay for those, right? It's the escalation. So that's another one of my arguments is, do I want to create a world where young women, 18-year-old girls, I'm going to call them girls because at 18 they're girls, 18-year-old girls, to go onto this platform so that they can sell parts of their body to men.
Right.
That's where this is headed. That's where that we all know that's more stimulating than this. We're seeing it happen, guys. If you want to, I don't have the stats in front of me. Just go to ChatGPT and ask, what are the viewership stats and monetary stats of OnlyFans? You will be saddened by how many women are on that platform and how much money is being exchanged on that platform. Yeah. So I always bring that up is, again, I think in our little delusional world, these porn stars aren't real people. They like doing porn, and what's the harm? They're all off in porn land filming porn. And it's not hurting anybody. That's naive, because I think the thing that we don't know, Chris, is where is this headed? Well, I guarantee you, we all would have denied that OnlyFans would have existed. We would have thought that would have been against some sort of law. Sure. Well, it's not against the law, and that's why it's being done. And so, to me, I think the further the argument is, rehumanizing this can really help you understand that if this scales in areas that have not even come out yet, these new inventions, and there's monetary gain, and then we've trained men to consume it. We've essentially created a massive market for something that, to me, is going to destroy young women. It's not something I'm happy about. So again, I appreciate you bringing that example, because I think about that all the time. The future, the reason we're here is because of the past. Right. And so if you guys are disgusted by OnlyFans, I don't know if we would have launched it had men not been fully consumed by pornographic images and pornographic film. Yeah. By the year 2000, I'm completely saturated in it via internet pornography. That's why we're seeing the escalation of all these, alternatives. Because again, once you've watched that much porn for 10 years, we know this about the porn, about the brain. It's gonna become curious what else is out there, and unfortunately, there's a lot more out there. And I don't think that stuff's. I think every guy listening to this would agree. OnlyFans is not harmless, and if you do agree with that, I'm sorry. But to me, I think the second you bring up OnlyFans and not porn, now all of a sudden guys start to say, "Oh, well, no, I'm not okay with that." Hold on. What's different about those women than the other ones?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you're talking about then it's a boundary violator, right? I mean, pornography is going to push that boundary, right? Eventually the novelty sensor goes, yep, now I need something more. Now I want to go and jump the shark here and do something different. And then I'm saying I'm complicit to that industry, right? I want to believe that I'm not a part of that, right? I'm looking at this kind of pornography. I'm not looking at that kind of pornography. And I go, okay, well, one, maybe give it a minute, because you might eventually get there, but you're also rationalizing it and justifying it, that's addiction. So I think the other piece is a big part of recovery is learning how to be assertive, right? How to have healthy confrontation. Ultimately, pornography is passive aggressive, right? I'm being passive in that I'm just taking time. I joke all the time. I got a buddy of mine who's always like, he wants to take me golfing. And I'm like, I love my wife too much to golf. I don't have 5 hours to just go leave my family. And from what I can tell, you can still golf if you're older and out of shape. So I'll wait till I get there and then I'll start golfing, right? But it's a time waste, right? I don't even if it's 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. I'm checking out, and that's passive. That's very passive. So if I want to be an individual who is successful, right? Passivity isn't part of that, right? So I'm being passive. And then the aggressive part is I'm consuming human bodies and I'm complicit to this industry, right? So I'm being aggressive. Well, if the goal of recovery is to be assertive, well, you're not helping yourself in that way, right? You're still dancing around in a passive and aggressive area, right? So men will either be passive or aggressive oftentimes, right? I'm going to punt on my responsibilities, which is passivity. I'm not going to step into the space that I'm called to step into as a husband or a father. So I'm going to punt on those responsibilities, passivity, or I'm going to go my way or the highway, and I'm going to get really angry, right? And so you're going to do it the way I want you to do it. And that's aggressive. And so if we're supposed to be assertive, there's nothing assertive around pornography.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I wrote a note down here that I want to bring up because I'm curious if you've looked into it. I haven't looked into it as much as I want to, but it's this concept of porn actually being different than sex. So I didn't really know this. What actually got me interested in this was I had a number of clients that it wasn't like D-Day, but one of the things that kind of read up the red flags that then eventually led to Discovery Day. A lot of guys get caught masturbating after they've had sex with their wife, like very soon after. And it's a red flag. The wife doesn't put that together with addiction yet, but what happens when that happens is any guy who's experienced that, it really bothers them because they're like, I don't get it. We just had sex like 20 minutes ago, and now you're masturbating. To porn. Like they can't. And I've had this happen a decent amount. And then the guys who even haven't gotten caught, a lot of guys have admitted, it's crazy. I'll have sex, have an orgasm, and the next thing you know, I still have this craving to look at pornography. So I looked into this, and I was shocked. It's they've actually have studied this. It lights up an entirely different portion of the brain. It's actually classified as voyeurism. And so it's not sexual. It's actually a totally different style of. So when they did this research, what they basically found was to have a physical, real interaction with a real human being that you care for, the brain lit up in an entirely different way. It was a whole different experience. And then when they looked at the guy's brain who viewed pornography, like literally two almost completely separate activities. So I bring this up only because what you were saying with it being passive, I bring this up only to have guys I think we love the story that it's sexual and it's hot and it's so much easier to be doing something hot. How hot's voyeurism, right? Look at the definition, right? So basically what the study was saying was that when we look at pornography, your brain knows that they don't know that you're watching.
Yes.
So you know that they don't know. And so this is the creepy element of it. So as I've looked into it, you can actually develop a taste for that. So basically you can enjoy watching other people do something sexual that don't know you're watching. And that is by definition voyeurism. That's what that is. And so pornography has been classified as that. At least in the study, they categorize it as a voyeuristic practice. So I just bring that up because, again, if we're talking about the health of all of this, the reason that guys will have actual sex with their wife and then still have this unmet need is they are actually two unrelated. So the reason I bring this up is, are you okay with having a desire and a need for voyeurism? Do you want to watch naked people who don't know you're watching them? Because that is what you're doing. And if any guy found himself, wife's there, she's ready to have sex, she's in the kitchen, she's just screwing around on her phone, sitting there. It's about it. And you sneak off and go watch porn. There's tons of guys who have done that. She's right there. She probably would be totally down to have sex. At least ask. And then if she, at least give the opportunity, but they don't. And I think guys, if they were honest, it's because their brain actually doesn't want sex. The brain wants to go spy on some other naked people and have a little sexual moment with himself. And so I like to bring that one up because I think I don't know how many guys actually stop to think if they're falling into that category. And if you do, that was the thing that really turned me off. I mean, I was like, I was all cool and I was, I was a man and I'm lusting after women and that's my manly story. But the second that I really, I read this article and it was like, hey, have you ever fallen into this category? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I think so. And then it's like, oh, that's what this is. And I'm thinking, so wait, now I'm a voyeur. I like to just spy on naked people. So anyways, I was going to bring that up.
Because voyeurism is viewing, right? So I'm viewing it. It's very passive, right? So it'd be like, okay, if we go kind of sex status and stuff, and guys go, man, I want to be the man. I want to make the money and drive the fast car. Show me the scene in James Bond where he's stopped and pulled over on the side of the road and watched porn.
yeah, exactly.
Like what? Right? It was just like, that's not, his passcode's 007. He logs in and, that's not what's happening. I mean, he was having sex with women.
Right.
He wasn't watching pornography. Right.
Well, but you bring up I want to pause there though, because a lot of, I would say probably 60% of the guys in my recovery groups actually do not have a pornography issue. Wife tells them to stop watching it. They stop watching it, no problem. Because again, their primary, and this is, I want to speak to this because this is important. So because this is a process addiction, what I always encourage all of the guys in my groups to go behavior by behavior by behavior and analyze the behaviors. Because if you guys look at your timeline, you did not start all of this stuff. You didn't start screwing hookers when you were 14, 12, or what. These things kind of came in phases. And the reason I love that you brought that up is within sex addiction, being that a process addiction, a lot of the reason I encourage all men to look at this as a process addiction is you might be getting something different out of paid sex than you would be getting after conquesting after, women at conferences or at bars, right? And flirting, right? All that stuff might be a totally different thing that you're getting from it. And then the porn could be a totally different process. And then prostitution could be a totally different process. An affair, an emotional affair. I mean, so guys, you kind of have to, I say this all the time, you kind of have to flip over every stone and see what's under there, because I know a lot of guys who flipped over a good amount of them, but then they're not all of them. The next thing you know, they have this massive relapse 5 years later. And it was because, they attacked the egregious behaviors, but what they didn't attack was how much they enjoy conquesting after a woman who's this unsuspecting, I wonder if I could just use my charm and good looks to sleep with her. So again, we don't need to go down any of those rabbit holes, but I do want to just propose to all guys, when you're going through all this, I know this conversation was about pornography. You can absolutely you could have basically what I like to say, Chris, is two completely different addictions. The pornography habit that you started when you were 11 may have nothing to do with this new conquesting activity that you're having now in your 50s. Sure. I've seen this so many times, right? The guy lands the CEO role. He's never cheated. All of a sudden, he starts to leverage his status in this way to kind of earn that attention from women. So, not to go down that tangent, but I do like to just plant the seed in everybody's brain. Not all of our compulsive behavior comes from the same pathway that would drive one of them. You could have two separate pieces.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's where it's important to do. If the guys have done some of the assessments, right? If you're working with a CSAT, you have this access to these, like the SDI, and you look at under the umbrella, like there's 25 different behaviors, right? Guys aren't going to struggle with every single behavior on there. And it can jump the shark. It can be like whack-a-mole. I mean, it's like, addiction, a good definition is I can never have enough of what I don't truly need. Right. And so, so then I can go, well, that's not an issue, or this, how much self-discovery do you want to do?
Right. Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Well said.
Do you want to actually limit yourself here, or, I think the idea is that it will make you just better overall in everything. It'll make you better business.
That's why I don't call it recovery. I like to call it self-mastery, because recovery, there's this implied finish line, this cleansing where you've detoxed, and you're, I like to call it self-mastery, because it's like, how much do you know about what you were doing? And how much do you know about why you were doing that? Because to me, the most recovered guy in the room, he has pretty, none of us know, there's no blood test to determine what your exact sex addiction is. But I would say that the guy who's in the best recovery and typically has the best marriage is the guy who can speak very, very, very intellectually to both of those. He's put a ton of thought into both. And by the way, guys, that's how you rebuild safety in your marriage. She will, the blind trust and all that, that's gone. The new safety is, do I trust you to police yourself? Right.
Yeah, I used to make for guys. It was kind of funny, but it was like a funeral invitation, right? And it was like a tombstone, and it was like their wedding date and then the day of discovery. And what died was the benefit of the doubt. Precisely. So the benefit of the doubt, you murdered it, it's dead, but it can be resurrected through recovery, right? It can be resurrected through creating trust again, through time and through consistency and empathy and all those things. And so. Transparency. Right?
Yeah, 100%. The last question, and this is one that we get a lot, but I'm just curious to have a just short conversation on it. Blockers. What do we do about this stuff? As we know, you can basically get around every blocker pretty dang easily, and once you figure out how to get around it, then it's kind of no longer serving its purpose. As I understand right now, Chris, I don't think there's a single one on the market that is not pretty dang easy to get around. So what are we doing with these things? Do we use them? Do we not use them? in a way, it's kind of fake sobriety. I mean, if the only reason that you're not acting out is because you can't, we don't really know if you're sober or not. That all being said, the betrayed partners really like having this software on the computer, even when they hear that they're pretty easy to get around. These ladies still, because of all of the ugliness that's happened, they still want the blockers on the computer. I don't know, man. I can't tell if they're effective. I can't, most of the guys find a way to figure out a way around them. Sometimes I almost feel like when they get added on, the guys almost have more desire to try to find a way, So what's your take on this? I'm pretty undecided. I can't decide. I'm pro them if they work. I'm against them if they don't work. That's kind of where I stand, because because they are so easy to get around. They don't necessarily work for the guy who really, to me, the guy who they work for is the guy who doesn't really have this massive porn issue. So all of a sudden this blocker is tremendously effective. The guy who really, really wants to look at porn finds a way to keep finding content. So I don't know. What
I always think that if guys took the bandwidth that they took to get through blockers, to get to the porn, like we could have already discovered a cure for cancer by now. Like, it's like, how much energy have we put into this thing, and why, if you put that much energy into your marriage, you'd be doing great. You'd be crushing it. Right. So I always kind of look at it like, so the guys jumped through the hoop. He crawled under the barbed wire. He picked the lock at the liquor cabinet, and then he acted out. And I'm like, that's amazing. If I'm the spouse, I'm even more upset. Right. I'm more like, there's some guys who break through so many.
No, Chris, it's true. That's why, like I said, I can't tell where I stand with these, because when the guy gets around them, these ladies are pissed, and it causes a massive rift in the relationship, because here's the thing to keep us safe. And you're not only not complying with it, you're actually going the extra mile to get around it. So again, I'm curious where you stand with this, because I can't tell if they're not effective. Are they causing more harm than good? I don't really know.
So blockers, I view, are like harm reduction, right? So wearing a seatbelt will help you to, maybe not die in the car accident, but it's not going to protect you fully, right? I mean, condoms are harm reduction. Helmets are harm reduction, right? It's not going to reduce the harm to zero, but it can reduce the harm enough. I don't think anyone's like, man, I'm a great bowler. I bowled 300. You're like, you had bumpers up. So great job. You bowled a 300 with bumpers. Right. Fantastic. Wow, you're an incredible bowler. So, but in the beginning, some guys just need it, and they need that accountability. At the end of the day, guys can always pick the lock of the liquor cabinet. We have to have enough internal motivation, not these external blockers, right? But that doesn't mean that, like, we shouldn't have stop signs.
Right.
So, everyone's going to roll a stop sign, so why have stop signs?
Right. Correct.
Every kid's going to try to drink when they're 18 anyway, so might as well let them drink. Well, no, he's like, what are we doing? Like, we should still have these things in place, and there's some that are better than others. Here's what a blocker should be doing. A blocker can't be the thing that's replacing your recovery, right? It can't be the only reason I'm sober is because I can't get to it, right? It should be the thing that goes, oh man, I'm trying to uninstall the thing and I'm trying to break through a firewall. I now need to call my guy. Because now I've slipped, but maybe I haven't fully relapsed, right? If a guy is horsing around and scrolling at 3 a.m, which, by the way, what's good is happening. It's scrolling at 3 a.m. Like, nothing good is going to come out of this. You need to reach out to your support, right? If you can, so it kills me, because I would have guys, when I worked in residential treatment, I would have guys practice. I'm like, look, we've done EMDR, we've done family of origin work, we've done trauma work. All fantastic. Can you delete all the numbers out of your phone? And then can you practice calling men? And guys go, I'm not good. If you can't call a guy when you're not struggling, you're telling me you're going to call him at 3 a.m.
Right.
Give me a break. So part of that is leveraging the fact that I can call. But if you ask most men, the reason they won't reach out to their support if they're breaking through the blocker or they're thinking about it is, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to bother anybody, whatever else. And then you do a quick thought experiment. Okay, so a guy calls you at 3 a.m. Right? The joke is no one calls from Vegas at 3 a.m. to talk about the weather, right? So the guy's calling you at 3 a.m. Are you going, God, what a burden? Or are you like, man, this guy really wants me to help him?
Right. When you admire his recovery as well, his commitment, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, because when you call one guy, you help two guys, right?
Right.
You're helping yourself, and you're stealing from him, if you don't call him, the opportunity for him to actually do some step 12 work to actually help serve some other guy.
Well, I'll have to show you what we use. So guys time and time again prove to me that they will not call. So what I invented finally, Chris, we have a cloud-based platform where all 10 guys in their group are on it 24/7, and you're not calling. You don't have to call. It's running all the time. It sends everyone an alert that you're in. So if they're available at that time, then they'll be able to see it. But if they're not available, but here's the interesting thing, because your brain knows that somebody could pop on there, somebody could see that depending on where they're living, time zones, it has the same effectiveness of, I'm now live streaming this into this group. Because again, guys did not call. It's 7 a.m. Oh, the guy's getting ready for work, I'm not going to call him. Oh, it's 10 o'clock at night, there's always an excuse to not call. And I had to remove that excuse. Now, if you're not posting something in there, and again, that's why I liked this blocker conversation, is I think what I really encourage guys, especially when it comes clear that the blockers are not effective, I say, listen, you've got to, I almost encourage them to just give up on the block. Stop acting like this thing is doing anything, because it's really not, and go for what we know the research says works, which, really by the time you're in a ritualistic thought process, we all know there's only one thing you can do, and that is to, tell somebody about it, and if you don't want to call guys, go tell your wife. The only reason we tell you guys to go tell other guys is maybe your wife won't want to, or maybe you don't want to keep telling your wife. But for a lot of guys, I say, listen, if the guy thing's not working, and it's really important to your partner that you guys clean this stuff up, maybe you do go see if she'd be open to be somebody to check in with. But to me, the answer of oh, I can't call guys, I can't tell my wife, and I can't rely on blockers. Well, then why are we even in recovery then? Because it sounds like
community, right, is the best accountability, right? Not an accountability partner who's some imaginary thing or a blocker. I need community, right? I need people that are going to hold me accountable because I'm in community, not because I'm like, oh no, I've done a bad thing. I'm going to reach out to them because they're actually my people. Right. I've got to practice that, and I've got to build.
You should want to. I mean, that's why I do 10 groups of 10 in my recovery group, and keep them all together the whole time through everything, through the weekly calls, the retreats. Is the only way I know how to make these guys feel like friends is to become friends.
You have to become friends. 100%. This is shocking. Right? And if you're going to have friends, you got to be a good friend. Right?
It's exchange.
It might be the common denominator as to why.
Well, Chris, this was a great conversation. If guys liked your vibe, liked your energy, where are you licensed? How do they work with you? What's working with Chris?
Yeah, so I'm licensed in Florida. And so you can just go to my website. You can email me. You can put all that in. I'll give you that information. You can send it to them. And I do virtual, so everything's virtual. And I also have a place that I'm going to be probably in the middle of the year going to be opening up to be doing intensives out here.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So,
nice.
So I'm excited about that. So that's it. I'm out here in Florida.
We'll include the information in there. Chris, one more question. If there was a guy listening to this who's having a hard time stopping, give him the action to take today. Because a lot of guys, I think they've semi given up, right? It's like, oh, every other guy was able to stop but me. What would you say to that guy?
Yeah, well, one, I think that guy's not in community, right? I think out the gate, you don't have other people with you.
And
right?
if you are in community, are you othering yourself? That's the other thing, Chris. The guys who I've seen who struggle with this, they might be in a group, but they insistently remind their brain that they're different. The group doesn't like them, right? They're extra screwed up.
I love the kind of chronic uniqueness of addiction, right? I used to have a really good grant sponsor who used to tell me, come down off the cross, we could use the wood, right? So I'm so special, right? That I'm the broken toy that can't get fixed. I'm the monster at the end of the book. It's actually kind of a form of addiction narcissism.
It is.
I'm so severely broken. I'm like, no, that's not true. It's the willingness and the readiness to want to change, and you can't do it by yourself. So you're going to have to be in authentic community. And if you can't share with people, then you're not in authentic community, right? Because you're keeping it to yourself, right? Which ultimately not reaching out for help is also selfish. Right. I'm robbing other people of the opportunity to be my support.
Right.
Which only
What I heard you say there was, you might think you're experiencing deep connection. You might not. What I found was, I was checking the boxes forever. It was finally when I had a tribe of men that we were jamming on this with. Oh, dude, everything just got easy. And I was pissed because I didn't take connection seriously for about a year. Most guys don't. They hear it, but it's, they go to the meeting and they feel like they're doing it because actually, let me rephrase that. A lot of them actually do think they're doing it because they ask their CSAT, well, what do I need to do for connection? They say, well, you go into the groups, you have some numbers, are you? And so the guy's like, yep. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, that's how you do it. No, that is not how you do it. I went to those meetings for a year. I was nice to all of them, gave them all high fives and joked about sports. I wasn't connected to a single one of them.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them, not even the sponsor. So that's the thing is, I second off what you said was like, don't lie to yourself. If this isn't your bro, your homie, you don't you don't want to call this guy. You're not enjoying your interactions with him. Find somebody else. I mean, it's this is, imagine your best friend. That's what one of these guys needs to be, but it does need to have a boundary around it that what you guys are talking about is this. But I mean, you should feel as close to this person. And if you're not, again, that's not connection. Now you're just calling a guy and talking about sex and porn.
Well, tell me you have an intimacy disorder without telling me you have an intimacy.
Yeah, we'll say.
Right? Intimacy isn't just sexual intimacy, right? So I need to have intimacy first with other men who, it's kind of like the base level, right? Like trying to hold empathy and space for your wife is like end level. I need cheat codes hard. I'm fighting the big boss at the end of the level. Playing on demo mode is finding other guys who struggle exactly the same way you struggle and then being open and honest with them about it. And then go, oh, okay, cool. I'm in a room of strugglers. This is fantastic. These guys all get it, right?
Yeah, right.
That's how you initially break through an intimacy disorder is having intimacy with other men that are having the same struggle.
Correct. 100%. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate this. And everybody, we'll throw Chris's link in the show notes.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Roland. Thank you.